Sports cars, honestly, what is the point of them? They are usually not very practical. You can't fit a wardrobe in the back of a Ferrari or take the dog, the kids, and your mother-in-law for a nice day out. But, and this is a very big but, they make you feel alive. They make a silly grin spread across your face, like a child who has been given too much sugar. And that really is what matters most in this world, isn't it? These machines are not just about getting from A to B. Anyone can do that in a boring beige box on wheels. No, sports cars are about the journey. They are about the noise, the speed, the drama. They are about feeling the road through the steering wheel. They are about that little bit of danger too, the sense that if you get it wrong, you might end up in a hedge. A very expensive hedge, probably. It's the thrill that gets us hooked every single time. Like a good cup of tea, but much, much faster. Let's rewind the clock, way back, before your fancy sat-navs and heated seats. The very first sports cars weren't exactly rockets. They were more like glorified horse carriages with very loud engines. Imagine 100 years ago, someone thundering along at 60 mph. It must have felt like breaking the sound barrier. People probably fainted in the streets. These cars were raw. No power steering, no fancy brakes, just a big engine, 4 wheels, and a very brave driver. Usually wearing goggles and a massive mustache. Think about cars like the Bugatti Type 35. It was stunningly beautiful. A work of art, really. But driving one today, you'd need arms like a gorilla, and the patience of a saint waiting for it to start. Or stop, for that matter. Brakes were more of a suggestion back then. Would you mind slowing down, old chap? The brakes would politely ask. The car, meanwhile, had other ideas, usually involving a tree or a ditch. Still, they were pioneers, these early speed machines. They laid the groundwork for all the fun to come. Then you had the Bentleys, the Bentley boys. They were famous for racing at Le Mans and winning, and for being rather robust, shall we say. These cars were like fast-moving trucks, big, heavy, and powerful. They didn't dance around corners, they barged through them. It was a different kind of elegance, the elegance of brute force. I once tried to parallel park something that felt like an old Bentley. It took me 3 days and I knocked over a small wall, but the sense of occasion, indescribable. You felt like a hero even if you were just going for milk. These early cars set the stage. They were benchmarks. They showed the world that cars could be more than transport. They could be exciting. They could be objects of desire. They were incredibly unreliable, of course. Breaking down was basically part of the ownership experience. Oh, bother, you'd say, as steam billowed from the bonnet. Again, but people loved them anyway because they had character, soul, something many modern cars, sadly, have completely forgotten about. They were the first notes in a very loud, very exciting symphony. After the unpleasantness of the Second World War, things got interesting, especially here in Britain. We were brilliant at it. We had little money but lots of spirit, and leftover aircraft factories, so we started building sports cars, proper ones. Cars like the Jaguar XK120. What a machine. It looked like it was doing 100 mph even when parked. And it actually could do 120 mph, hence the name, clever. It was a sensation. The Americans loved it. They bought loads. Which was good because we needed their money, to buy more tea, probably. Then came the Jaguar E-Type. Enzo Ferrari himself called it the most beautiful car ever made, and he knew a thing or two about beautiful cars. He was Italian, after all. They invented style and pasta. The E-Type was long, sleek, and surprisingly affordable. Well, affordable if you were a pop star or a dentist. It had a massive, powerful engine up front, and it made a noise that could make angels weep, or possibly run for cover. It was quite loud. I drove one once. It tried to kill me. Several times. I loved it. It wasn't just Jaguar, though. Oh no, we had Austin Healey. Big, brawny cars. The Austin Healey 3000. It was a hairy-chested beast. Not subtle, not particularly sophisticated, but enormous fun on a winding B road, especially if it was raining, which it usually is in Britain. You'd slide around corners grinning like an idiot, hoping the brakes would work when you needed them. They were cars that demanded to be driven properly, with skill and preferably a spare pair of trousers. And let's not forget MG and Triumph. They made smaller, more affordable sports cars. The MGB, the Triumph Spitfire, the TR6. These were the cars that ordinary blokes could buy. They weren't always the fastest or the most reliable. In fact, an MG was almost guaranteed to leak oil on your driveway. It was a feature, not a bug. A British car marking its territory. But they had charm. They had spirit. They were the backbone of the British sports car industry. A glorious time of innovation, style, and occasional electrical fires. So, how did cars get so much faster? It wasn't just by painting them red, though that helps. No, it was clever people in sheds. Engineers. They started messing about with engines, making them bigger, more cylinders, more power, more noise. They discovered things like overhead camshafts and fuel injection instead of wheezy old carburetors. Suddenly, engines weren't just lumps of iron, they were becoming precision instruments of speed, which is much more exciting, isn't it? Then there was the obsession with weight, or lack of it. Colin Chapman of Lotus was the king of this. His motto was, simplify, then add lightness. He made cars out of fiberglass and very thin steel. Sometimes it felt like they were made of paper. But boy, were they quick and nimble. Driving a Lotus 7 is like wearing the car. You feel every bump, every pebble. It's an incredibly pure driving experience. If a little terrifying when a lorry overtakes you. You feel very, very small. Aerodynamics became a big deal too. At first, cars were shaped like bricks, which is not very good for slipping through the air, unless you are a very fast brick, I suppose. Then designers started thinking about airflow, making cars sleeker, lower, with slippery shapes. This meant they could go faster with the same amount of power, and they looked amazing, like spaceships for the road. Suddenly, cars weren't just fast, they looked fast too, which is half the battle when you want to impress people. And materials. It wasn't just steel anymore, aluminium became popular. It's light and strong. Then carbon fiber, which is even lighter and stronger. It came from the world of aerospace, very fancy. Using these exotic materials meant cars could be incredibly rigid, which helps with handling, making them stick to the road, or in some cases stick to the ceiling if you went fast enough. Probably. I haven't tested that one yet. All these clever ideas, bit by bit, transformed the sports car, from a rattling chariot into a focused speed weapon. Section 5. Look at me, the wild shapes and roars of the 70s and 80s. The 1970s arrived, and everything went a bit mad, especially car design and trousers, bell-bottoms, honestly. Sports cars became incredibly dramatic, all wedges and wings. Think of the Lamborghini Countach. It looked like it had been designed by a child with a ruler, a very talented child, mind you. The doors went up, not out. How cool is that? It was completely impractical. You couldn't see out of it. It overheated in traffic. It was a nightmare to park. But who cared? It looked like a spaceship. And it made a noise like God shouting. This was the era of the supercar poster. Every schoolboy had a Countach or a Ferrari Boxer on his wall. These cars were pure theater. They were outrageous. They weren't really about sensible driving. They were about making a statement, a very loud statement. Look at me, I have an enormous engine, and probably a small, well, you get the idea. It was all about excess. Big hair, big music, big wings on cars. A fantastic time to be alive if you liked noise and showing off, which of course I do. Technology was moving fast too. Turbocharging. Saab and Porsche were some of the first to really master it. A turbocharger is like a snail that lives in your engine. It sucks in air, forces it into the cylinders, and bang! Suddenly a small engine could make enormous power. There was a downside, of course. Turbo lag. You'd put your foot down. Nothing. Then, whoosh! All the power arrived at once, usually halfway around a corner. Exciting. It made driving an early Porsche 911 Turbo a bit like wrestling a bear. And then there were the hot hatches, ordinary little family cars, but with angry, powerful engines. The Volkswagen Golf GTI started it all. It was brilliant, practical, affordable, and incredibly fun. You could take the kids to school, then go tear up a racetrack, or, more likely, show off at the traffic lights. Other manufacturers quickly copied the idea. Ford, Peugeot, Renault. They all made fantastic hot hatches. It was a golden age for fast, affordable fun. Proof that you didn't need a supercar to have a brilliant time driving. Though a supercar still helped, obviously. Section 6. Computers on wheels, the 90s power struggle, the 1990s. Mobile phones were the size of bricks, the internet made funny noises when it connected, and sports cars got seriously clever and seriously fast. Electronics started to creep in, lots of them, things like anti-lock brakes or ABS, traction control. At first, purists like me moaned. Too much nannying. We cried. We want to crash ourselves, thank you very much. But actually, these systems made cars safer and allowed engineers to unleash even more power, because the car could now help you control it. A bit. This was the decade of the Japanese superheroes. Honda NSX, Nissan Skyline GTR, Toyota Supra, Mazda RX-7. These cars were technological marvels. The NSX was developed with help from Ayrton Senna. It was a Ferrari beater that you could drive every day. It even started when you turned the key. Amazing. The Skyline GTR, or Godzilla, was a monster. Four-wheel drive, twin turbos, and so much computer power. It could out-accelerate almost anything. And it looked like it wanted to eat other cars for breakfast, which it probably could. And then there was the McLaren F1. For me, this is still the greatest supercar ever made. It was designed by Gordon Murray, a genius. It had a central driving position, like a fighter jet, a naturally aspirated BMW V12 engine, gold-lined engine bay, no turbo lag, just pure, instant, terrifying power. It was the fastest production car in the world for years. I drove one once. It was like shaking hands with thunder. It cost a fortune. It still costs a fortune. But what a machine, an absolute masterpiece. Nothing else from that era quite compares. The supercar horsepower wars really kicked off in the 90s. Ferrari F40, okay, late 80s, but still ruled the early 90s. Then the F50, Lamborghini Diablo, Bugatti EB 110, Jaguar XJ 220, each one trying to be faster, more powerful, more outrageous. It was a brilliant time for car magazines. Every month, a new monster to test, a new speed record. These cars were pushing the boundaries of what was possible. They were incredibly complex and often incredibly fragile, but they were the dreams that fueled a generation of car lovers. A symphony of noise, speed, and slightly worrying repair bills. Section 7, Taming Lightning, Modern Marvels, and Hybrid Hype. Now we are in the modern age, the 21st century. Sports cars today are astonishingly capable. They have more computing power than the rocket that went to the moon. Probably, I haven't checked, but it sounds good. They have launch control. So even your grandmother can do a perfect start. They have active aerodynamics, wings that move on their own. It's all very clever and makes them incredibly fast. So fast, in fact, that you can barely use their full potential on the road, unless you want to end up explaining things to a man in a hat. A policeman's hat, to be precise. Then came the hybrids. Oh, the horror. At first, we all thought it was the end of fun. Sports cars powered by batteries, like a milk float. The Toyota Prius had given hybrid a very sensible, very dull image. But then, Porsche 918, McLaren P1, Ferrari LaFerrari. The Holy Trinity, they called them. These cars combine massive petrol engines with electric motors. The result? Utterly biblical performance. Instant torque from the electric motors. Mind-bending acceleration. Suddenly, hybrid wasn't a dirty word anymore. It was the key to even more power. These modern hypercars are almost too good. They are so competent, so controlled. The electronics are so clever, they can make anyone look like a driving god. Which is good for sales, I suppose, but sometimes I miss the old days, when cars were a bit more wild, a bit more unpredictable. When they tried to bite your head off if you weren't paying attention. There's a certain satisfaction in taming a beast. Modern cars are more like very well-trained, very fast pets. Still fun, but a different kind of fun. But progress is progress, you can't stop it. Engineers are always looking for new ways to go faster. Lighter materials, more efficient engines, cleverer software. And now full electrification is knocking on the door. We've seen electric cars that can out-accelerate petrol supercars. It's a strange new world. Silent speed. No roaring V8, no screaming V12. Just a faint whine as you are pressed back into your seat. It will take some getting used to. But if it's fast, I'm sure we'll learn to love it. Eventually. Section 8. Into the Great Unknown. What will we be driving too fast in? So what does the future hold for sports cars? It's a big question, like asking what's for dinner for the next century. One thing is certain, petrol engines are on their way out. Governments are banning them, tree huggers are celebrating, and car companies are pouring billions into electric power. So future sports cars will almost certainly be electric. This means they will be very, very quiet. Too quiet, if you ask me. Half the fun is the noise. Imagine a silent Ferrari. It's just wrong, like a silent opera singer. Or a mime who actually talks. Will they still be fun, these electric sports cars? Well, they will be astonishingly quick. Electric motors give you all their power instantly. No waiting for turbos to wake up, just bang, you're gone. Acceleration will be so fierce it might rearrange your internal organs. Which could be a new form of thrill, I suppose. Did you feel your spleen move? Handling should still be good. Batteries are heavy, but they can be placed low, so a low center of gravity, which is good for corners. The challenge will be making them feel engaging. Special. Not just like a very fast, very expensive golf buggy. Then there's the whole self-driving car thing. Will sports cars drive themselves? What would be the point? Look everyone, my car is having fun without me. That sounds like the most miserable experience imaginable. The whole idea of a sports car is the driver being in control, the thrill of mastering the machine. If the car does all the work, you might as well take the bus. Or better yet, a train. You can get a nice cup of tea on a train. I sincerely hope sports cars remain firmly in the driver-required category, even if it means having a special track use only button. And what about the passion? The soul? Can a car powered by electrons have the same soul as one powered by explosions? That's the million-dollar question, or billion-dollar for car companies. Maybe the next generation of designers will find new ways to make us tingle, new sounds, new sensations, new ways to show off. Perhaps cars will change shape as you drive them. That would be cool, or Project Laser Beams. Even cooler, one thing is for sure, people will always want to go fast. And they will always want cars that look exciting. As long as that desire exists, the sports car will find a way to survive, even if it sounds like a food mixer. Section 9, Conclusion. The unending quest for more power. So there you have it, a quick blast through sports car history, from wheezing antiques to silent electric rockets. It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? Cars that were designed to stir the soul, to make you grin, to occasionally try and send you backwards through a hedge. That's the important bit, the thrill. It's why we spend ridiculous amounts of money on them. It's why we forgive them when they break down, which, if it's an old British or Italian one, is often. It's a love affair, a slightly dysfunctional one perhaps, but love nonetheless. These machines are more than just transport. They are an expression of freedom, of individuality, in a world that often wants us all to be the same, to drive the same boring silver boxes. Sports cars shout, "No, I am different, and I am loud." Well, they used to be loud. The new ones are a bit shy, but the spirit is still there. The desire to be exciting, to turn a mundane journey into a small adventure. Even if that adventure is just popping to the shops for a pint of milk. Doing it in a Lamborghini makes it an event. The technology will keep changing, that's for sure. Engines will evolve or disappear. Materials will get lighter and stronger. Computers will get even cleverer. Probably too clever, but the fundamental appeal of a sports car? I don't think that will ever fade. It's wired into us, that little bit of rebel, that desire for something that's not entirely sensible. Something that puts a massive smile on your face. Something that makes you feel, even for a moment, like a driving god, or at least someone who isn't late for work. So, as we look to the future with its electric whines and AI co-pilots, let's hope the car makers don't forget what makes these cars special. It's not just about 0 to 60 times, or lap records. It's about the feeling, the emotion, the sheer unadulterated joy. The quest for more power, more speed, more excitement will go on. It always has, it always will. And as long as there are roads and people who love to drive, the sports car, in whatever form it takes, will be there. Probably sideways, making a lot of synthetic noise. And I, for one, can't wait to see what they come up with next. Hopefully it's orange.